I might need your help.
Mhm.
He has nothing. He does not know how to get a knock out. Do you? He does not know how to get a knock
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to get started here. It's about 5:30, so let's get started. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see some new faces here. We'll call the meeting to order. The first agenda item is to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Wayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Okay. Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Wayne? Yes.
I love the activities on the resignations.
Yeah, we have 2 resignations. Bill Simons wishes to resign his teacher associate position. Bill has been a teacher associate for Carroll Community School District for 2 years. Mara Mashing wishes to resign her girls golf coaching position. Mara has coached girls golf for Carroll Community School District for 2 years.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Wayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes. Okay. Moving on to the public forum. I see we have lots of new faces, and there is actually one particular person from Zach requested to be on the agenda this evening, and that is Roxanne Hayden. Before we have you speak, what I would like you to know are a couple different things. First of all, I'd like to remind you that the media is present, so everything that you say and comment on will be public information. Number 2, we're not going to be commenting on any of the particular items tonight because we're not going to be taking action on them, but we do welcome your comments, but we will not be taking action on them. Number 3, please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. If we ask you questions and we need more information, that's one thing, but we still want to come along civilly. Number 4, please speak up. It's a large room, so it's hard to hear, so please speak up so we can all hear you. Other than that, the floor is yours, and we welcome your comments.
Okay. There's myself and a few parents that are here tonight, but we want to talk about household mandated masks. I know there's been a lot of schools that have mandated it, and then there's been some that are not. We are here to voice our opinion that we would like a choice as a parent to make that choice when our children go to school. We feel that it's a medical decision. There's a lot of research that shows children in masks with their developing young lungs can actually harm them. And also, I don't know if you guys have been around the community and watched children in masks this summer, but what I've observed is they're pulling it down and putting it up, and their parents keep saying, leave your mask on. You know, this is just grocery shopping. I observed this. And I'm a TA and work in classrooms. I have for the past 7 years. And just picturing a 4th grade class sitting there with masks on all day is quite stressful for me because it'll probably be my job and the teacher's job to keep those masks in place. Ideally, yeah, that'd be great if they'd all sit there perfectly and keep the masks on. But I've done extensive research also on the effectiveness of masks, and I've not found anything with the legitimate sources in science that says masks work if they're not worn properly. There can't be any holes or anything in the sides for them to work, which having children in masks all day, you're bound to have them not worn properly. Also, I read something the FDA has said there is no FDA approved mask for viruses right now. So any mask that we put on a child or an adult, there is no approval by the FDA for a virus. I know surgeons wear masks and healthcare workers in controlled settings where they're in a controlled setting that has ventilation, and surgeons wear masks not so they don't get a virus, they wear it so they don't spit on their patient during surgery, to put it in a nice blunt way. But they don't wear those masks not to get a virus. So that's according to the FDA. I did get some research on that. And any of the stuff that I'm saying, I do have information on if you guys would like it. I'd be glad to send it to you. Also, I was wondering if there's been any studies done of air quality in the classrooms on any of our buildings recently.
Not in the last year.
Okay, so I know in medical settings, they have extra oxygen and extra air movement to accommodate mask wearing. I know as a TA at Adams, our rooms go from 80 degrees to 60 degrees pretty quick. And it gets really stuffy in a room. And then as we go and we pull the little temperature gauge down, all of a sudden it goes to 60. It's very hard to regulate our temperatures at that school. Now, I haven't worked at all the schools, so I don't know what all the schools are like. But my concern is the air quality in these rooms would not accommodate the wearing of masks on these children all day. I understand people go to the grocery store and throw a mask on for hour of shopping, but 7 to 8 hours a day sitting at a desk with a mask on, I feel would be very difficult for these children and not safe. What else? Oh, my daughter, I just want to give a personal story. My daughter has been playing AAU basketball and softball all summer. And we were in Ames and Omaha and Des Moines, and we are in crowds of people, and there is no social distancing. The signs are up all over, but nobody's doing it. And these girls are on the basketball court. My daughter played 6 games this past weekend, and they would not be allowing this to happen if there were outbreaks happening among these children. So she has been in this for 3 months, and there's been no outbreaks at any of these facilities. So I'm just saying from my personal point of view, to have my daughter go to school in a mask right now isn't going to happen. I will homeschool her because she has been around kids all summer and she's not sick and I'm not sick and my grandparents aren't sick. So I'm not sure where we're going to get our data from or where we are going to decide whether these kids should be in masks all day. But I'm giving you my personal side of it, that outside of our little world, there's a whole world going on. These kids are not dying right now. They are thriving and they need to be in school. And they need to see the teacher's face and they need to see their classmates' faces and their smiles. When you don't see smiles or expressions on faces, those kids will not be able to communicate well, especially the younger ones. So I hope that you guys look at all of this before you decide to mandate masks. And if you want any information, I've got a lot of it. I know I sent you guys my initial email, but I've actually come up with a lot more information since then. That is from the FDA that I think would be really interesting. So I don't know if anybody else here has anything, but that's what I wanted to say. And thank you for letting us come tonight.
Thoughts and concerns. Thank you. Anybody have questions?
Brad, I would give it I don't want to say suggestion, concept of the air quality in the buildings. I mean, that was something I know that was it 5 or 6 years ago, Gary, about the high school we had at home. So that's something that I think we really need to look into as a district and make sure that not just the high school, but the other buildings don't have similar.
Our main thing is we want a choice whether our children wear masks. I mean, anybody can wear them, that's fine. If they choose to wear them, but we want a choice.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward and being very clear about your concerns. Appreciate it.
there any other parents that want to?
Yes, I would just speak up. Pat Tigas, Kellen Tigas is my son. He's a special needs student. First of all, thank you guys for letting us do this. I think this is a great deal. You guys have done a great job. Like we were talking out in the hallway, I couldn't think of one single bad experience that we've had in Carroll Community Schools. And that's a big thing to say because I'm a Kemper graduate. So, you guys have been doing a great job. I believe you're making an informed decision. One perspective to give you in this is that Kellen, being a special needs child, is high risk. We got the letter from Royal Hawk about Kellen being labeled as the special category, and we have. It told us to talk to our doctors, which we've done. We do it all the time. A cold and flu season can be very detrimental to Kellen. But the one thing the doctors have made perfectly clear in Kellen's situation is that he drools a lot, doesn't control his saliva. So putting him in a mask, his mask would be wet. And it's the one thing that they've made perfectly clear to us through this whole thing is that, there are concerns, obviously, with the COVID side of things. But in his situation, a damp, wet mask is by far a worse solution. So they've told us in no uncertain terms, not that he would even keep a mask on. If we tried to do it, you'd have to staple it to his head because he's taking it off. So I mean, when we went up to the hospital at Gillette's, they just said, listen, we can't do this. So there are situations like that are out there. I would agree with Roxanne on the point that whether you believe in masks or not, I do feel that the choice should be there. I do have concerns about Arlen's ability coming to school for the first time, and I want her to be excited about it. And you have those worries; she'll be fine. But and we will send our kids to school and follow whatever guidelines you guys have set forth, or the school decides to set forth. But there are situations, and we're one of them, where we have had these discussions with a number of doctors, and they've said, don't do it in this situation. And I guess that's the big thing. Thank you for everything you've done. We appreciate all the hard work you put in. And at the end of the day, that's the one thing we like is a choice. And then to hear just, a situation where the doctors have specifically told us in Kellen's situation, don't be going down this road with you. So, thank you for the shine.
Thank you for pointing out. I had kind of a different perspective, but similar perspectives as Pat and Roxy. I have two very active, very good students, going to be a third grader, going to be a freshman. And I'm lucky enough to be able to be home with them. So I was home with them the entire time we homeschooled. It worked out great for us, but the effect and the impact on them socially, emotionally was just devastating. And so I guess, again, I will reiterate, how thankful we are for all the work you guys have done and what unprecedented times that we have. But this really is a time for choice. And, whatever we can do, I really hope that you will enable us to make the choice to send them to school, which we will absolutely choose to do because my children need to be with their teachers. They need to be with their classmates. They need to engage. They need to socialize. I did the best that I could, but I cannot supplement for the interaction and the growth and enrichment they receive throughout that process, which has nothing to do with them academically. I really just will really ask and hope that you will continue to go down the route that will allow us to choose what we want to do with our children, whether we want to send them home, whether we want to keep them home, whether we put them in mass or we don't, because our kids really, really need some guidance and leadership right now. We will support whatever we have to as a community. I know we will because we've done it in the past, but this is really an important time that we really need to be there for our children and getting our children back in the environment to help them grow and enrich their lives is very, very important right now. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here with the other parents and just to be able to express my thoughts on that. Anybody else?
I don't know, I just raised my hand, I guess it's what you do. Still don't want to get in trouble. My name is Tyler Nelson. I guess we've heard from different viewpoints on how the mask could affect kids. I have kind of another viewpoint is we live in the country, which is going to be more of a problem you see in the Midwest than you see in these big metro areas with internet. We don't have great internet. Online learning, when I was finishing my degree, was a big problem. And having 2 kids at home, I see that to be a continued issue with people that live in rural areas of the county. I don't think that can be understated enough. My children would have to come into town to a friend's house, get to my place of employment, use the internet. It would be very hard for us to have to deal with. I think this is just in addition to what these other folks have said here this evening of some unneeded roadblocks that could be solved with just the option of choice. I don't fault someone if they believe their children need to wear a mask. I totally understand. That's great. I'm not sure the science is there to back up how successful they are. I guess just to follow up, I don't know if you're able to answer this question or not. Who is the school leaning on for data in making your decisions on this? And is there any kind of a timeline? Who are you kind of looking towards to kind of collect your information as you make your decision?
And we'll talk more about that later when we do our presentation on updates with our plan to return to school. But, I think that's one of the big challenges through this whole thing is there's lots of information out there. And so we can't possibly follow all of it. So who do we rely on from the very start? We've relied on, obviously, the governor's office, the Department of Education, Iowa Public Health, which is tied to the CDC. And so and then our local county public health. Those are the main places we've relied on guidance.
There'll be kind of discussion after that one meeting. First step programs.
I think that'll be up to these guys if they want to allow comments, but it's likely.
And we're not voting on that plan tonight. That plan, we have on our agenda actually to make a meeting the first part of August to vote on that plan. So it's more presenting right
Yep.
now, but it changes daily. There's not going to be any plan voted on tonight.
So you're hoping to have a plan in place by
Yeah. Something that's like, this is what we're doing and we're going to go forward. And that being said, circumstances, they still could change after that. But
Situation, so we're trying to wait till the last minute before we actually make that decision on which direction we're going out of the 3 different. So we're just waiting for more developments and more information coming out. So like I say, every day there's something new that you're reading. So we want to make the best decision based on those current data and move forward. So this meeting is just for more data gathering, information gathering from public, and then we'll do that meeting in August.
Where's the best place to watch for those updates?
We're going to be doing it at the meeting on August 4th.
yeah.
Typically on the news, local news, it talks about the Philly School Board meeting. I just happened to hear about this from a phone call from a friend. So where should I be checking into that?
It'll be posted. On radio and.
Yeah, we usually do a press release, especially for special board meetings. So that goes out to our local press. But then, our website, our social media channels, any of those would be places you could look as well.
If the board would like to, we can maybe jump ahead and set that.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
we should get
Yeah.
dates that they're aware of it. Out of yourself on
Yeah.
the text.
Towards the end of the meeting, in item number 8, we're looking at board meeting, special board meeting.
I can make the 5th work. I'm on the 4th.
The 5th works for me. 5th works for me.
Okay.
Anybody want to make a motion for that?
Go ahead, Dwayne.
I would think have our special board meeting, address the open school, the plan, Wednesday, August 5th, then we'll start at 5:30, which is kind of our normal board time. Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes. And where are you gonna have that? Where are we gonna have the meeting? Cases?
I think it's probably out here again, just because it's a bigger space than the boardroom.
So there you go.
And he's gonna be going over the plan and just, we have donations and then personnel report, and then it's the plan if you wanna, it shouldn't be long.
I have one quick question. The survey that you sent out to parents,
Mm-hmm.
is the results gonna be public for that?
Would definitely be part of our discussion on the 4th and 5th. So yeah, I mean, they'll be public in that regard because we'll talk about them in a public meeting. So yeah.
I'm also hoping to have some public health here to ask Casey to contact them, because I'd like to hear what they're saying on how many cases we had in Carroll, are we trending up, are we trending down, hospitalization, what, I don't know. I don't know if they'll be here or not, but at least we're gonna.
Well,
get some-
We have two.
We have tonight. We
I
have,
meant on the 5th.
okay.
That August 5th one, just tell us what's going on, what are you hearing, what are you seeing? So I think that's important information, not just for the board, but also for other people who have concerns and understand the information we're taking in to make decisions, so. Just gotta keep everybody in the loop on what's right.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Well, thank you again for everyone's comments and concerns. And August 5th, 5:30. Next item is donations. I don't see anything.
Nope.
Move on. Personnel report.
We have 3 recommendations for contracts tonight. Randy Beeson is recommending Jody Goodall for a middle school cheerleading position for football and basketball. She's going to be the middle school and high school cheerleading coach. I'm hoping this will help build the program, as she will be able to build the program at the junior high level, so we have good numbers at the high school. If approved, she would receive $750 for football cheer and $750 for basketball cheer sponsor position. Patrick Rabbit and Crystal Bays are recommending Juanita Detlinger for a special education teacher associate position at Adams. Juanita has 8 years of experience. If approved, she would work 6.75 hours per day and would be paid $11.80 per hour. And she gets the 30 cents for experience, which is in that $11.80. And then I'm recommending Kelly Stitz for student information specialist / administrator assistant position. If approved, Kelly would be paid $15.38 an hour and would work 8 hours a day. It's an 11-month contract or position. She would receive single health insurance at the $500 deductible and would be allowed 13 sick days on her first year of employment. She has 15 years of experience in an office setting, including supervising staff.
I'll move to approve the recommendation. I'll second.
Wayne? Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Moving on to the administrative report. Casey?
Yeah, so the bulk of mine is going to be on our kind of an update, I guess I would say, on return to learn / reopening school. And so I'll talk about tonight I'll talk mostly about some of the things we're talking in terms of mitigation strategies at this time. I will say that there's still things that have to be decided. One of the challenges that schools like ours face is that in the month of July, we don't have as easy access to our staff as we do during the year. We did a lot of work in June, but there's been, I probably couldn't count the updates to guidance that have come out since then. So that's one of the challenges. And there are a lot of things that the people that do the work on a daily basis really need to be involved in deciding when it comes to what it looks like in the building and that kind of thing. And so we'll be digging deeper into those things. But I think before we get too far into it, I think a lot of the comments here that our parents and community made tonight are valid. One thing I think is really important, and you all understand this, but because it's been mentioned, this is a unique situation. We've never dealt with this. There's not an experience to go back to that, well, what did we do last time? Because we haven't had that. It is complex. And one of the reasons it is because there's just so much information out there. And so, how do you decide what information to use and not use? And so that's kind of what I said earlier. We've tried to, through the whole thing, rely on the guidance that we've been given from the folks that I mentioned earlier. I think it's also important to know that we have to keep in mind what is the goal, what is the purpose of a school, and it is to educate kids, prepare them for the future. And we can't the reason I bring that up is we can't get stuck in some of the, we're not medical experts. Nobody, well, some of you are more so than me. The doctor in front of my name is very not medical at all. So we do have to rely on others to help us make decisions. And so I think that's important to know. And I mentioned we've used, obviously the governor, when she makes a proclamation, those things we have to follow. And then the Iowa Department of Education, CDC, Iowa Public Health, and our local public health department. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. Also, I think as we go through this, we're going to need cooperation from everybody starting here. And it was talked about tonight. We've got parents here tonight that are supportive. I heard that, and everybody in between, from bus drivers to cooks to teachers. We're all going to have to work together to make this successful. So we need lots of help and cooperation. And you've heard it said, you've heard it said, a fair amount of grace as we try to make decisions and try to be flexible and those kind of things. One of the big, we deal with this every year, kids being in school. At what point do we not want kids in school because of illness? We had a pretty good, we've talked about this recently, we had a pretty good flu season this past year where we had a lot of kids out with the flu. I know there were times where we had buildings at that 10% level, in which case we have to report to our county public health whenever we get to that range. So it's going to cause, this situation with COVID-19 is going to cause us to have to, look at things just a little bit different. Just today, in talking with one of our school nurses, she said, I work hard every day trying to keep kids in school when they come to me. And it's not that we're not going to try to keep kids in school, but we're probably going to need to shift our mindset just a little bit, in that, if it's questionable, we don't want somebody with symptoms in school with the potential of exposing people. So in our plan right now, what we've talked about, there's a list of symptoms out there that are connected to COVID-19. And another difficult thing is people have some of these symptoms and some people don't. But similar to what one of our Carroll area daycare is using, if a student has symptoms, they want to be symptom free for 72 hours. Right now, that's what's in our plan, and we're going to watch for guidance to see what, if any, updates are there. We're also working on what is it going to be for staff too. I saw something today where it would be less than the 72 hours, but we still got to explore that. So. And then if there are positive cases, either we know that we will at some point will have positive cases among our staff, among our student body. That's where we're going to work directly with our local public health department in terms of the quarantining, and if there's been an exposure, what's the quarantine date, which is 14 days. The challenge that we have is that really the public health only relies on what the person tells them. We only would be able to rely on what the person tells them. And so that's where we're going to have pretty close communication with them on knowing what the start date and the end date of those 14 days are. So that's would be one thing that we haven't talked about, but that's one thing that's in our plans. A lot of this is going to come down to routines in our buildings, and that's where we're going to need staff to really speak into that, because they're the ones that develop those routines. And teachers and TAs are excellent at developing routines, enforcing routines, following and communicating those routines. And so it's really critical that they get an opportunity to speak into those. Some of the things that we're going to have to do, we have to look for the areas in our buildings each day where we have larger gatherings, and how can we make those less? How can we have less of those gatherings? Hallways, classrooms, can we space people apart? One of the things that we've seen a movement of teachers wanting tables in their rooms instead of desks. So we're looking at the number of rooms we have and the number of desks. Maybe temporarily we switch back for a little while. So we're looking at all those things, traffic flow in the hallways, and also cleaning routines. So right now we don't have custodians. We don't have a crew of custodians that, like in this building, for example, that could go swarm into the rooms at passing times and clean, and then new kids come in. So teachers and students, depending on the age level, will have to be involved in those routines. So we've talked about those. It was mentioned here today, there's lots of reasons why we think, I believe that we need to start school. Some of those were mentioned today in terms of the social aspect. I think another thing that's really critical is that it's another opportunity for adults, caring adults, to have eyes on kids. And that was lacking from March 13th through this time period. And so I think that's another real critical thing. And I think it is also what makes it worth it to face the challenges that we are in trying to make this happen to start school. There's some human resource things that we're working on too. We know that staff have concerns. We know there's going to be situations where staff are not able to be in school because maybe there's been an exposure in their family and they have to quarantine. And so we're working on developing guidelines and rules, so to speak, in which those situations will be addressed. I just had a conversation today with our attorney today, and we're looking at some work rules around that. We have purchased PPE in terms of, we have masks, we have face shields, we have gloves, we have hand sanitizer, we have disinfectant, we've got all those kind of things we haven't purchased. Now, we haven't purchased it to the degree that we know that we have one or two for everybody, but just so we have some on hand so that they can be used with whatever we decide, whether it's required or not required. Another thing is access to the buildings. One of the great things when I would go to last year, when we would go to the elementary at Fairview, especially, and Adams, you would see our grandparent program where grandparents come in and read with kids. Some of those volunteer situations that we had this past year, we likely will not have this year, at least to start the year. And, we can evaluate as we go. But I think, again, we're going to have our hands full trying to address the kids and the staff that are in the building every day. So we're going to try to limit access to the building. This is kind of in the reverse. When we think about kids coming to school and leaving school, we think we're looking at how can we have more than one entry into the building, which is ironic because we worked really hard at having one good entrance that everybody goes through. And at least temporarily, we think, again, if we think about having fewer kids in a group, are there multiple entries into a building? And so at the building level, they're working on that. What areas in the day do kids congregate, trying to develop routines and processes to reduce those? And then we have to take a close look at the use of our facilities by outside groups. We're not saying at this point no, but I think we'll need to be a lot more picky and limit those things to things that go on with the students in our school district rather than an outside group that really doesn't have much of a connection to the school. Those may be no. Assemblies, field trips, those for at least to start the school year would be things that we're going to push pause on. We'll think of other ways to do that. You know, you have assembly to recognize kids. I think there's other ways that we can do those things, at least temporarily. So that's something we've talked about. I mentioned traffic flow. When you go to the stores, you know, you see go one way down the aisle. And so we're evaluating, are there opportunities in places where we can do that? Lunchroom. Each building's a little different. And so I think it'll look different, but I think there's some buildings where we'll be able to utilize the lunchroom. It's big enough where we can move tables, maybe add tables and space kids appropriately. So we're looking at that. Here in this building, for example, is probably the one we have the biggest challenge with, and we'll probably have to look at eating in classrooms and stuff like that. And so developing some routines and things around how we can accomplish that. I know a big concern that Jeff Dvorak has is the impact that'll have on carpet. And there will be spills and there will be messes, but it is something that we're working on. Playground, I think recess in general, you know, I think that and we do have Mr. Rabbit and Crystal Bay's here today. They're working on recess and, you know, how can we want kids to be able to go outside. We know being outside is a good thing for a lot of reasons. And so we'll work at creating ways where that can be done safely, and whether that's, you know, cleaning the playground equipment, which I don't think is something that we normally do. We can look at that, or just, you know, limiting use of some of the higher touch areas. Cohorting or putting kids in groups, which it's going to be easier for these guys than maybe especially this building. But any opportunity we can keep groups of kids together, we will do that, because one of the things is when we start that contact tracing, when we have a case, it's going to help with that a lot. Like I said, we have challenges here in the high school, but anywhere we can, we're going to try to have kids grouped together. I mentioned classroom procedure, cleaning procedures. We see that being like at the high school, either at the end of each period or the start of the period. Desks would be wiped down. We'll have the products, the wipes or whatever in the classroom that they can utilize. At the other levels, elementary, you know, you have the same group of kids in a classroom, and so it won't be done quite as frequently, and that might be a situation where teacher and TA have to do the cleaning. Our custodians, Jeff's preparing, and so we can communicate that when we have our plans, so everybody knows what those procedures will look like for the cleaning procedures in our buildings by our custodial staff. The one thing I know will be different is our daytime custodians don't normally do a lot of cleaning during the day, but they'll have a regular schedule where they're going around buildings and hitting those high touch areas, cleaning and disinfecting those. We have purchased 6, what are they called, Jeff?
What they call electrostatic sprayers.
Yeah.
They energize molecules so that it wraps around, spray it like a handle, wrap around the bottom.
Yeah. So those can be used in the buildings and on buses, and they have a 1 minute is the kill time, I believe.
Yeah, but 2 different options on that. The Oxiver that they're using in it, 60-second kill time on it. Or we got a product by Procter & Gamble that is a 5 minute. So obviously, like on a bus or like Fred, I don't need to use it for 2 or 3 hours. I can use it 5 minutes. It's a lot cheaper. That'd be my suggestion. Jeff and I are working on that together.
So we'll have those procedures spelled out and able to be communicated with board, parents, staff, everybody. Summer sports, we know we just wrapped up our summer sports, baseball and softball. It went pretty well. We had two cases on our baseball team. It did not close. It did not shut down our season. Which I should mention too. I've communicated, or we have, not just me, Randy, I know worked with Sarah through the summer sports and our weight room and summer activities. And she's been very good to work with. You know, she did the contact tracing and made decisions based on that. I know in talking to some superintendents, there's some counties where I don't think they felt that same way. It was more of a, you got one case, you're done. And so I think that's definitely a positive that we have here. But in terms of fall sports, we don't know that yet, what that's going to look like. We know, we heard you may have heard this as well at the end of last week. Our athletic associations have a plan that they're working on a plan to start on time even, but we don't know the details of that, and it has not been communicated that we're for sure having it, and here are the things you have to have in place. So we're going to have to, just stay tuned for that. In terms of face coverings, which was talked a lot about here today, or masks, I mentioned that we have purchased some masks and some shields. We've had summer school today and yesterday. We saw some kids with masks, kids without. We have staff that wore them. But our plan right now, we haven't really changed anything around face coverings at this point in our plan. I think there's still some conversations to be had, some data to be looked at in terms of our survey. And then I want to circle back around to Iowa Public Health and our local public health before we would bring any final recommendations on the face coverings to the board. I think just hearing from other schools, I think you're seeing required, you're seeing choice, you're seeing communicating the times in the day or the situations where masks are needed, okay? Because it was mentioned here today, a kid walking in the door at 8 o'clock or 8:10, having a mask on and keeping that on till the end of the day is concerning to some of our folks here. And I think that might be why you're seeing districts maybe trying to identify the situations where masks may be needed. And remember, the social distancing, we're going to try to do what we can there, but we're not going to be able to be perfect there. And there's some situations, like we're going to talk about transportation here in a minute, where it's just not going to be very possible at all. And so hallways here in this building are another one that we're struggling with. Those were, just keep that in mind as we go forward and think about masks and some of those situations. As far as our nurses go, we're going to talk about staffing later as well. But one of the things is we have a nursing station or room in every building. We also need to have an isolation room, and so we're identifying a room in each building that'll be an isolation room. So if we have a kid or a staff member with symptoms, we would get them to that room and then make arrangements to get the staff member home. There was a list of, early on in our discussions, a list of things that room needs to have, and we're not going to have rooms that always have, or that have the things that are recommended you have in place. Like Adams, for example, we don't have, our current nursing office does not have a nurse office, does not have water, right? Yeah, it doesn't have water. And so we're trying to find locations that maybe we could utilize at least temporarily. But we're going to make the best of that situation. But we will have an isolation room in each building. And I mentioned public health. A week or so ago, the county superintendents met with Sarah, and we talked about a lot of different, some of the things that are in our plans. And I know that they have challenges as well, getting communication and stuff like that, just like we do. So I know they're doing the best they can with the situation. Online options. I think last week, one of the things that came, I think you'll see pretty consistently across the state, outside of a few, is districts offering choice. Right now, I looked at our survey, I think first thing this morning, we had over 700 responses so far. And about 20% so far of our respondents are asking that there is at least a online option. So I foresee this being what comes to you on the 5th would be probably a plan where we start our school in person, and we also have an option for families that want an online option, in which case they would, there'd be a process where they would let us know that, because we need to know, because then we have to get, we need to know who those students are, and so we can get our staff organized to be able to serve that group as well as in person. But that's just kind of an anticipation of mine, I guess I would say. It's my understanding, you know, from our meeting with Sarah, with Public Health, that, and also some guidance came out after we met about closures. And if you looked at that proclamation that the governor made, you know, those decisions about closing buildings or districts are made in conjunction with Iowa Public Health, which I don't know how that communication will work between Iowa Public Health and our local county, but so that's something that we should be prepared for. What we talked about in our meeting was, you know, hopefully the schools in the county have things in place so that when they do the contact tracing, you know, maybe it's a classroom that's not in school for a period of time, or a grade level, or you know, maybe it gets to a building, but hopefully not a district wide thing. And I fully expect that we're going to have closures to some degree during the year, but I don't see that being a 3-month or a month. You know, hopefully it's a week, it's 2 weeks, it's something like that. But a lot of that will be dictated on what the conditions are. And then transportation, we're going to talk. Jeff's going to talk more in depth about transportation, but I know just in terms of cleaning, he mentioned the hydroelectric sprayer. He has one for the bus barn, but he'll have procedures in place where after every route, anytime a bus goes out and they come back, that bus will be cleaned and disinfected and ready to go for the next time that it goes out. And I believe Jeff and the mechanics will be the folks doing that. So, and then we've got other things that we wanted to talk about in the area of transportation, and I'm going to let him do that.
Stand up, you don't mind. Back to you. Yeah, just to piggyback on that a little bit. We have 23 routes every AM and every PM, 7 at noon. So every time those buses go out, I'll spray them every morning when they come back at 8 o'clock. I'll spray the noon ones when they come back at 12:30. Then I'll spray the 23 when they come back in at 5:30 that night. So I'm gonna spray about 60 buses a day. So, and like I said earlier, we're gonna use 2 different products, Oxyver, which hospitals use. It's got a 60-second, it's got to sit on the surface wet 60 seconds to kill. It's a little bit more expensive than the Procter & Gamble product. It's got to sit on there 5 minutes. It's not as expensive, so to me, that's what we should use on the buses. Jeff and I are going to work into that and go from there. Transportation, I don't know what to tell you right now other than I'm pulling my hair out. Here's the deal. I lost 5 drivers last year coming into this year. I did away with 3 routes. We had 300 stops, over 300 stops in the city of Carroll. No other town around does that. So we're going to have some significant changes in our in-town busing. I got some maps here I'd like to point out and show you some diagrams I have. You know, with the COVID and with the loss of the drivers, I've got roughly 600 kids, rural kids I need to pick up. We divide that by 23 buses. I'm gonna put about 30 kids per bus just right there. Okay, we've got buses. Our buses are all 65 or 77 passenger. Many of those last year were maxed. We can't do that. Obviously, we're not gonna be able to do that, put 3 kids to a seat. So we've been talking about that. That's to be discussed yet, how many we do or whatever we do. But I just gotta put in front of you that we're gonna have some significant changes in our in-town busing. I just wanted to add to that. Maybe some of you are aware of this, some of you aren't. State law, anybody K through 8, 2 miles or less from school, we do not have to bus. Only special needs kids. Any high schooler 9 through 12, 3 miles or less, we do not have to bus. Carroll's done this as a courtesy for years. A lot of towns aren't doing it. What I want to do, no, that's not what none of us want to do that. But we may be forced to do something like that this year just to get through this mess, okay? Ultimately, what I'd like to get is, I don't want to keep the 300 stops we have currently. It's crazy. What I want to do is to pick up points in town. And that's something we'll discuss later. I got some in mind and we'll go over that. But for the time being right now, I'm just going to give you a couple maps here. I got a map for Fairview, I got a map for Adams, and I got a map for the high school and middle school. Basically, the yellow is just for your information. It's a mile. The 2 mile is the red. So you can see from Fairview, that encompasses almost the whole city down to McFarland Clinic for Fairview School. That's 2 mile. Adams, it takes the whole city. So you can take a look at these. Obviously, middle schools, anything basically south of 30, we would be over the 2 miles. So we got some decisions to make how we're going to do this. We can't continue to put 70 kids on a bus right now. It's not going to work. So somehow or another, we're going to have to cut back. I'm going to be looking at 23 routes this year. 2 of those routes, let me back up. All but 5 of those routes go to the country. 5 routes are just strictly in town. So with this plan like this, if you went to 2 miles, I'd have 1 bus that won't have any kids on it, so I can run it around town to do pickups if I had to, or shuttles or something like that. So the other big question is going to be daycares. I have 28 daycare centers, in-home daycares in the city of Carroll. Okay. Currently, we're picking up at each one of those. So we got to figure out how we're going to do that too. As far as the noon route, the preschool route, I don't think we'd probably change that any. We keep it the noon part the same way that we've got it. At noon, we send the buses to the schools, to Fairview, to Holy Spirit. They pick up the preschoolers that were in school that morning, and they take them home, and then they return and pick up the afternoon class and bring them back. That won't change. That'll be the same. We'll go pick them up at their door, just like we have. The only part that's going to be different is if we go back to this, drop-off points, whatever it is, or shuttles or whatever, they're going to be with the rest of the general kids, okay? They're not going to get preferential treatment to go house to house. So that's kind of a map there. The daycares are little red dots. You can kind of look at that if you want to. Other than that, I'm still trying to hire. I got 2 interviews Friday, so I'm hoping to get more drivers. I got more buses than drivers right now, so let's see if we can get some more drivers out there. But I'm open to suggestions. I went over and met with Mr. Steppes and Katie Reesberg yesterday and talked to them a little bit about this at Kemper just to get them on board with me. So, we're all in this together. We got to do what we got to do to get the kids to school. But we're gonna have a tough road. We may have to have some parents help out if we can, obviously.
Yeah. So there's 2. So what we're planning to do is ask parents who can if it's possible for you to bring your kid and your student into school and pick them up after school, we're going to ask that you do that. And then what we're trying to do is, and we think we can, I believe, we think we can pick up the families that we have the legal responsibility to pick up, which would be outside the 2 and 3 mile limit. And that our buses would not exceed 2 per seat. And so 2 kids per seat, we would have assigned seats, we would have siblings sit together. We would be under the, so when he says 77 passenger, that's with 3 people in a seat.
That's 3 to a seat.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've been on if you've been on a bus, if you haven't for a while, those seats aren't that big from what I remember as a kid. It's hard to get 3.
13 inches
yeah.
is what they allow us.
Yeah. So we think we can do that. And I think last we talked, we think we can do that and daycares. So when Jeff talked about, we've got to deal with this year, and then we've got a longer term issue that we've got to address. But as he said before, right now our focus is getting this year taken care of, and then we can have conversations about going forward from there. But that's kind of what we're thinking right now to start the school year, is that we would, and then we need to have the discussion about, so if you have 2 per seat, I would say obviously social distancing is not possible. The recommendations that came out for summer sports would be every other seat. And that would be as best you could do for social distancing.
One person every the seat, which
Maybe
equals
13.
13 kids per
Yeah.
bus. I'm not sure how I'm going to get 1,300 kids. Well, 600 rural and roughly 800 city.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of trips. We'd have to start dropping kids off at 3 in the morning, but that's not going to work, obviously. So
that busing could be an area where we need to, I talked earlier about, are there places in the school day where we may need to look at the face coverings, and that may be one of them. If we're going to be at that 2 kids per seat. And of course, we're using numbers that we had last year, so registration's going on. Some of that'll change here and there, but at this point, we think that's what we can do.
That's projected numbers, right? Like you said, I fully expect a lot of parents are going to say, I'm not putting my kids on a bus. And I've already had some emails and some calls saying that, and I appreciate it. And anybody that's going to do that, I would appreciate them letting us know as soon as they know, because that just lets us figure it a little bit better, easier. I got a great bunch of drivers. I just, there's only so much we can do. So
right now you're just planning on picking up the rural kids, special needs kids, and the preschool midday.
Right.
And dropping out the preschool midday and hitting the daycare or the childcare. Are you hitting the childcare centers?
Childcare center, Carroll area. I have one bus that that's what she did last year, was that and some other stops. She'll pick up 30 or 40, 50 kids there at one time. So obviously we're going to have to, she may have to make 2 trips there. So she'll be dedicated to that, as well as, we go to Head Start at noon. We got other daycares around that we hit too. So my goal right now is to have her hit what she can. And then my other bus in town that is, his route would be actually, gone because of the rule here. I'd take him and send him around to the daycares.
In-home daycares.
Right. And it's there's a lot of finagling to go on it, but it all depends on the numbers too. I mean, if it turns out that we have a real low number count rural area, then we could maybe we could do something this year, like a pickup points or something like that. But right now,
I had talked to Casey about I think it's important that we reach out to those especially big businesses that are the majority of our employers, their human resource department or their head of the organization, and just try to work as a partnership. You know, we all want to get our kids back to school,
Right.
and they need their employees at work. You know, maybe they can be flexible with shifts to let those employees get their kids to school or pick them up.
And we may have to, we talked about, we may even have to open buildings a little bit earlier too.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so.
It's a great year for Tiger Zone to start.
Yeah. We've had a good response to the Tiger Zone. Yeah.
Anybody got any questions on that?
With the survey, we didn't do anything with regard to parents' choice to drop their kids off at school or high school kids if you're going to commit to drive.
We didn't ask high school. We did ask question on the transportation. And I think it was around 60% of the respondents said they would need school transportation.
Obviously, I realize that's higher numbers on the lower grades than not driving.
Having a lazy, now 7th grader who doesn't always get up in time for the bus, and I'm talking, it comes at 10. And she's not home. So when I come to the middle school, it is awful. Are we going to fix that if we're all coming with our children?
That's another
Yeah.
issue I was going to bring up. With this, we're going to have not only there, Fairview, we're going to have some serious traffic issues. And we've been talking about how we can possibly reroute some traffic from here and the middle school, you know, as well as Fairview. We're talking about other ideas on how we can, in the afternoons, it's really a mess.
And I think you and I have talked in the past, you may use the St. John parking lot to help you route. The only time I could see that being a problem is for some reason we have a funeral, but we don't have very many. So.
I appreciate that. And our only problem is it'd be great if they would go down there and park, but they park everywhere from Fairview to there on both sides of the road, and I can't get the buses through. That's where we're running into trouble.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, police department can't spend all their time up there, so.
Can the police department help us at least for the first week of school with helping direct the people so it becomes a routine?
I think they would, yeah, but you know, the problem we run into is we get to depending on them for the first week or so, and then they have get all called away or something like that. It's we're just gonna have to educate the parents how to get in there and out of there. We got some ideas on we can put an extra 25 people in there. We may have to, you know, if the bus drivers didn't park where they were, then we could snake people in there 3 times and get a lot more cars through there. But
Can you move the school buses to the St. John parking lot until kids are all in place and then move on over?
you want?
Just a thought.
It's possible. I'm not, you know, anything's, yeah.
Or stagger the times of release and for bus compared to pickup.
Mhm.
Yeah, we talked
Yeah,
about that
we
too.
Yeah, but you know, I remember having, it's been years since my kids were in Fairview. The parking lot is 100% better than it used to be. But it's still, those parents would come an hour early.
At least,
Yeah,
Okay.
and to sit, and then they block everything up. too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the traffic flow we try to keep, you know, by going out. Last year we switched it to the north drive because when the buses are coming out of the south drive, you know, the traffic backs up there, the buses can't get out. So we're, you know, so now it's a little bit better, but you know, if we could get the parents to wait till we got the kids out of there and then start coming to pick them up, I mean, it would go real slick. But
What if you did parent pick up first and get the parents out of the parking lot, pick up 5 or 10 minutes earlier and then bring the buses in so that they're not anxious. You can get them out of there and the buses might be able to maneuver a little bit early, easier too.
that would be that'd be a good possibility. The only problem is if they're in there and my drivers need to do a 15-minute warm up on buses to inspect them and everything. So then they wouldn't get in there until they're well out. So that put the buses another 20 minutes after, you know, so I'm running a lot. I'm open to suggestions. So, but other than that,
Yeah, everything, you know, things have unintended consequences, and one of those is we can accomplish the busing, but we're going to have traffic flow issues with those parents, with more parents coming to pick their kids up and drop them off. But there's a lot of things that as we talk through different strategies and routines and stuff like that, hopefully they're temporary. And some of the things we're talking about may lead to, gosh, this works kind of nice. We'll keep it that way. But there are some things that we're going to have to do that are going to be uncomfortable for a period of time, but it won't be forever.
It's gonna be a year of changes all the way through, I think.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's all I had.
That's it, huh?
So we have,
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. See you on the 3rd.
each year we have we contract with St. Anthony's for our trainer services. And this year will be a cost of $2,000, and I apologize, I didn't go look and see how that compared to last year, but
It's the same.
is it the same? Okay.
It's from the same company.
Okay, so
I'll move to approve the St. Anthony Athletic Training Agreement.
Second. Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Abstain.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the starting and substitute pay for the school year 2020-2021. The purple sheet.
yeah, so each year the board approves this list of starting pay and substitute pay. That way it's established, and so we work off this throughout the year. The areas where you see to be determined, like for food service and custodian, that gives us just a little bit of flexibility when we're hiring, if we have to hire in those positions. So that's kind of why we keep it to be determined at the hiring, depending on their experience and that kind of thing. The one thing I guess I would point out in terms of teacher, that's one thing that you've probably heard a fair amount about, schools being concerned with substitute pools. And I don't know yet about ours. I know that we're not unlike a lot of schools in that we have retirees that serve as subs. But this year we were at 115, and we are proposing to go to 125 for this coming year. Not only because of that, we did do a quick comparison to our neighbors, and just to kind of stay on the high end of that comparison group, 125 would put us tied with one other district for the highest, and so we think it stayed the same for 2 years. This past year was the same as the year before, and so we're proposing to go to 125 a day.
Are we having difficulty finding subs right now for last year, or is that an issue?
I would say we have challenges, yes. We would love more subs, yeah.
Subs have to have credentialing.
Yeah, so now in the recent proclamation, there were some flexibilities given to schools in that area. So yes, normally you have to have a bachelor's, and if you're not a certified teacher, if you have a bachelor's, and you can go get certified to be a substitute. But they've given us some freedoms there, and then there were restrictions on how long you could sub if you were not a teacher, and you couldn't start the year with subs. And so we've gotten some flexibility with that, which is a good thing.
I'll move to approve the starting substitute pay for 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne, yes, Karen,
Yes. Moving on. Juvenile court school liaison contract.
Yeah, that's the green, dark green. So this is, Hunter Harmoning is our school juvenile court liaison, and so this is the agreement with the Iowa Department of Human Services. Yeah, so schools usually, this is a program you partner with the Department of Human Services to have a juvenile court liaison, and so it's an annual contract that we approve. No, it's pretty much the same.
I'll move to approve the court liaison contract.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne, yes, Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Board policy revisions, first readings.
Yeah, 240 is on public participation in board meetings, and this one just in, I don't remember what just caused me to look at this one, but I just was looking at ours and comparing it with the IASB policy, and you can see there were some recommended changes. I think that cleans it up a little bit. I wouldn't say that there were any major changes. Some of the stuff that's struck through could just be said in fewer words, and then it's also that it's addressed in some other policy areas. The one on employee travel, 407, that came up in our discussion the last couple of months, or last month, I guess, mostly about mileage reimbursement. And you can see we struck the 40 cents and said at the current IRS standard mileage rate for businesses, or for business as of July 1st of the current year, and the rate would be reviewed annually. I don't know if you're comfortable with that, or.
Is it intended to change every year?
Well, I think it fluctuates. Yeah. Cindy, I think you said,
I deal with it every year.
Yeah.
It fluctuates, but it's always within a penny or two. Or even a half a cent. Like, I think the highest was 0.585. And now it's 54.5. So it fluctuates within a nickel per month.
we did have some discussion about, the advantage of just having a flat amount in the policy is that you don't have to worry about checking it. The disadvantage of having a flat amount in there is that it just happens to stay that amount for a long period of time. So I think this will work. We just have to be organized to remember to check it.
It is interesting that the IRS loosely ties that reimbursement rate to the cost of gas goes up to something a gallon. The rate of that correlation, they have to restate that. So, yeah.
So is that something we discuss or state at the July meeting each year then? Since
It would-
changes on July 1st?
It would just be a business office thing where we would just check the IRS rate and then adjust in our office what we pay. At least that's how I'm taking that. We wouldn't have to bring this to the board every year in July, because the policy just says that's the rate we
And
pay.
if there's just on the board agenda that it would definitely be checked,
It-
and you could just state it
Yeah.
necessarily for approval.
And it could be a deal where we just, I make a note and put my July folder to update the board on this is what we think what the IRS rate is, just so the board's aware. That might be a way to do it. Yeah.
Whatever the rate is in July.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Things that will probably have drops in nickel or whatever that.
Yeah.
in July.
Yeah. You can see too, it's just for the new board members, or maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but we spell out, this is the mileage between the in-town places that we go. And so this form is used by our staff, and they turn it in each month. And that's what they're paid off of, which you see that in the bills. And then the final one, 432 on workers' compensation. This policy, these changes did come from Brett Nitschke, our attorney, when he did the review of the 400 series. And so it's you can see we're adding a fair amount and striking a paragraph there and 3/4 of the way down.
I'll move to approve the first reading of policy 407, 407R1, 432, and 240.
I'll second.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Wayne, Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Okay. Any appointments?
Whoops, I think you want job description, don't you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're ready to go.
I'm sorry about that. Job description for the health assistants. That's actually over on, I think it's orange.
Yeah,
Orange.
just a couple of changes to that. We don't currently have anybody in this role, but the next item, it could be something that we discuss. So we just decided to review that job description and update it. Just 1 and 2 are the
The only thing I saw was
updates.
number 9, good keyboarding skills.
Might be a little outdated,
Yeah. I thought maybe computer skills, maybe?
probably.
Technology
There
use.
you go. I love that word, technology.
What number did you say again?
9 under the qualifications.
Qualifications.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm gonna agree.
What'd you say?
Technology use or
Technology skills are used.
good grasp of.
That would cover a lot more than just.
Yeah,
That's the only.
okay.
We have to have 2 readings for job description.
Yeah. Which you can approve it with that. You could approve it with that additional change.
I'll move to approve the health assistant job description with the technology skills change up for number 9.
Wayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Moving on. Consider adding additional staff to the health services department.
We kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, but so through our work with our return to learn plan, there was a committee, there is a committee, I guess you'd say, on health and safety. And the conversation started there because I think there's some recommendations you can find that talk about having a nurse in each building. And so I would say as we started working through and talking about some of the different things in that document to help us plan for school starting again, the conversation was just around the possibility of our staff, nurses being spread thin, especially with the additional responsibilities that may come with COVID-19. So you remember we had a meeting where I said, let's table it because early on they were, everything from checking temperatures at the door to, there were several things in there. I'm drawing a blank now on some of the others, but I said, there were some new guys that came out, let's wait. I met with the nurses and they had sent me a proposal that Mary emailed you about that time. in that meeting, I said that the board had conversations about health assistance as a possibility. And so, we talked through that. And obviously you might imagine that the nurses, our school nurses would prefer that we had nurses and not health assistants if we were going to add any positions. I think I know there was a time where we had a health assistant or maybe more than one in the district. And so I explained to them where we were at as far as the board taking action. They didn't take action, and that we would continue to consider it. I would say since then through now, kind of where I'm at in terms of this issue is that there is going to be more. So in summer school, we've just in 2 days, we've had a couple of situations with kids where they've been around kids that are being tested. And so when you think about everybody coming back, or a high percentage of our kids coming back, those situations are going to increase. And so while public health will do a lot of and be the lead, I think probably mostly on the contact tracing, we know that we're going to have to be a partner in that, because if kids are in school, we know what classroom, we know what bus, we know all those kind of things. And so there really is going to need to be a person in the district that is kind of that main contact with public health and that works with them on that contact tracing. Also, if you play that out, if there's a positive case, we've got to develop communication that goes out to to families and to staff, and so I think that there is a need, at least on a temporary basis, to add staff in this area. And that's what's driving me saying that mostly is I'm starting to see kind of the management piece of what's going to be involved here. And I think it does make sense that a school nurse is kind of the lead person doing that. So that can be accomplished with our current nurses, with some help in different areas, whether that be from a health assistant or an additional nurse. We currently have, I think, 2.5 or 2.4 FTEs in terms of nurses. So we have one half-time and we've got 2 full-time. I have seen some schools in this situation not being able to pull the trigger long-term on committing to adding a nurse, saying that it's a 1-year position, and evaluate that towards the end of the year based on what's going on with COVID-19. Yeah.
You would recommend doing what, Casey?
I think based on what I just said there, I would probably recommend to you that we go one full-time nurse. I would say that we say it's a 1-year position and we evaluate it as we go forward. I'm thinking right now I would just do that and not a health assistant.
At all.
Yep.
So the bank, the bump is 1 person versus more hands. I guess my concern is that, so,
Mhm.
that person could cover all the different buildings that might. Still concerned about numbers that you're saying. You have a lot of kids that have issues. You have 1 person. Is that person going to be able to provide that? I'm just looking at the big picture. Numbers versus 1 person, more qualified, obviously, or is that what we need versus more bodies to work with more students? So,
Right.
Both. Well, I should be saying, can we do both? I don't know.
No, go ahead.
Look at it from the standpoint of having like 3.5 staff, so to speak. You at least have a nurse in almost every building all the time, versus you're gonna have to be a building and a half short, or 2 buildings short based on the half the person's not there. I mean, so.
Could we go on with the system
Yeah.
Is that a possibility still? Is it either or can you do both?
Oh, I'm just saying what my recommendation is. You could say, hey, the heck with your recommendation. We're going to hire 3 health assistants. You can do that. You could, yeah, obviously, if we had 3 full-time nurses and you added a health assistant, there would be somebody else that can help.
Well, I think what I'm hearing, so feel free to correct me, everybody else does. We need one of our nurses to fill out paperwork, basically.
We need one of our nurses to be, I think, the lead contact, the lead in dealing with the management of COVID. And so I think, yeah, paperwork's involved in that. There's no question. There's phone calls. There's communicating with parents, communicating with public health. And then that, that will dominate some time there. I'm sure of it, especially at certain points in the year.
So my thinking is that if I had done the studies to become a nurse, I would want to be doing nursing things. Does it have to be a nurse that communicates with you guys, or can it be somebody at the health assistant level that's doing all the paperwork, letting the nurses do the nursing? That's kind of where I'm aiming at.
I understand. I don't know if I have a great response to that. I mean, yeah, if you had the right person, for sure. I mean, I think it would just depend on the skill set of that person. I think, when I play out scenarios, I don't have any. I'm not naive to think that every time we call somebody and say, hey, you're going to have to be home for 14 days, that we're going to get a response that's yay, So I think the person, regardless if it's a nurse or health assistant, they're going to have a skill set to be able to handle that appropriately.
I look at it, it's not just about COVID, it's about other health needs. I know we've had some situations come up where we didn't have a nurse in the building. Health assistants not. So I look at part of it as exposure to the district, and I can lean towards, we need to hire another nurse. We need to hire another nurse. Have that person, and I think that's the way we go. I look at young.
Right, well, and I'm thinking the same thing. I think we need another full-time nurse to do how we getting one just so that they can fill out pandemic paperwork.
Well, that paperwork we get filled up with something.
That's a high dollar amount to pay for people
It is,
filling out.
it is.
Yes,
It is.
and I would rather have a qualified nurse that was available to nurse than
I
fill
don't
out
know if I
pandemic.
can fill that paperwork out.
Well, I started out I started my journey of becoming a pastor by taking medical terminology course at WIC. There's such things, and you know what you're talking about. By the time you're done, if you have a qualified nurse that's giving you that.
And I should say, let me be clear that what has led me to that recommendation is I don't think this person would be just doing COVID stuff and paperwork. They would be a school nurse. What kind of I shifted my thinking because I was all in favor of just looking at health assistants, but I see there being a fairly large responsibility placed on our nurses to help and lead the management of the challenges that are going to come from COVID-19. So they will do, this person, if we hire a nurse, will do school nurse things first. But as we get into situations where we have cases of COVID, they will be the lead of that.
Are they still doing Medicaid noting outside the work hours and getting a stipend for that?
I don't know how much is outside the work hours and how much is inside, but yeah, we pay a stipend for that. And that was a case where there's a lot of paperwork involved there. But quite honestly, you gotta have somebody who knows what they're talking about. And so
that's why we have the nurses do that. Because we want it done correctly. But yeah, we pay them for that.
And it could be a situation where if we hire another nurse that maybe we don't put the, maybe the other nurses that we currently have do the Medicaid and this one does not because whoever would be doing the COVID, leading that effort, maybe doesn't have the Medicaid responsibilities. I don't know. We'd have to dig into that, but.
We have a head nurse. Do we have a head nurse? We have somebody that says, okay, you'll do this and you'll do this and you'll do this and I'll do this, or?
Well, I don't think any of them have the title of head nurse at this point, no.
I know my concern was the longevity of being able to afford this. And when you said 1 year, I think it's really important. My anxiety went away when you said 1 year, Casey, because I was like, okay, we can see how this plays out and know the needs. Because, like you said, we're going in uncharted territory of, we don't even know the real need yet. So to me, I'd be fine adding that nurse on 1 year. And then maybe we need to put, my concern, I know there's a lot less population at Adams as a building, but you really don't want that secretary to be nursing when you have to take the isolation rooms and that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
Maybe we need to look at hiring a half-time health assistant for there to cover those duties.
Yeah. And with our isolation room, as I mentioned at Adams specifically, some of the areas that we could maybe put it aren't in the office area. So then you can't really have a kid in there if there's not an adult in there. And then the office is vacant and, so there are challenges there. And that would help with it. Yep.
Are the nurses currently, does Ann get any help at the middle school and high school currently?
I was thinking that Teresa goes to the middle school some, but I don't think anybody else comes here.
Because that would be, with Adam having the least amount of kids in all the buildings, correct? Ann's running her tail off when you see her at the middle school. I mean, if we add someone, I really feel like we need to have them in the most populated building to meet the needs. Of it.
Yeah.
Because it's rare.
And I think that would be where, then the administrators and nurses can sit down or me and the nurses, whatever. And if we hire staff and line up staff where we have the most kids and that kind of thing, but yet still be able to address the needs that occur at Adams as well.
Casey, when you spoke to the nurses, did they indicate any concerns about working with these particular assistants, these health assistants, other than just they would rather prefer to have a nurse to be able to do the type of nursing skills that they understood? Were they willing to work with the health assistants, or was that something they were not going to kind of maybe supervise or assist with?
I think that how I'd respond to that is I think they would be appreciative of any help. That being said, they did express concerns about the challenges that come with managing people along with the nursing duties. Yep. That's probably the biggest reason why they were more in favor of nurses over health assistants.
I'm just concerned, like you said, if the numbers do get kind of higher, the more hands, the better kind of thing to actually help everyone. If you're not really welcoming that kind of assistance, then it really would be worth trying to go that direction either. So,
it says in the job description, health assistants are reporting to the building principal and the superintendent that we just approved.
So I think that my response to that issue is that we may need to work with the nurses on, managing that person, whether it's, maybe there needs to be more involvement or clear expectations you know, those kind of things. And I think we could help with that for sure administratively.
We're not moving on after this evening. That was just discussion. Or did you move on that?
What's that?
Did you want to move on that tonight?
I think if we're going to add staff, we would need to take action tonight because we would need to post and interview and all that stuff. Yep.
What is everybody okay with?
I think we're full-time nurse, just because of the.
Temporary. Would you stipulate it as a 1 year with reevaluation for the need after this year?
The other thing that could happen after a year, you might evaluate 3, not 3.5.
It's possible.
Or maybe go back to the 2.5, but I think at least that's an option there as well.
So can we say like full-time nurse has a 1 year position, and then after you guys are planning and it gets closer to the school year, if we need to bring in a health assistant, have time to help with something, we can add it at that point?
I think, yeah, I think your motion could be to give me permission to hire a nurse and a full-time nurse on it being a 1 year position. It'll be reevaluated. And then we can come back to you on a health assistant.
So that might be a detriment.
Well, I don't know. I guess I you know, the timing right now, there may be some pretty good interest just because of the circumstances that exist. And
Nurses are giving hours. Healthcare facilities.
I'll move that we, call Casey to look at,
I'll second.
Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne.
yes.
Staffing and coaching positions, it's kind of a pink color.
yeah, so let me just explain, and then if you have questions, it may not have been that clear to you what this is trying to accomplish here. But one of the things you run into in schools is all of a sudden, maybe in a given year, maybe you've got a bigger group of kids or whatever, but a coach may say, gosh, I got more kids, I'd like to have another coach. And so what we're trying to do here, attempting to do, is say, you know, we have guidelines in place that help us make that decision. And there are times where you do need, I believe, when numbers get to a certain point, there does need to be another adult added to the equation. So what you see in front of you here is for each sport, we've got high school, middle school and high school, well, 7th and 8th grade and high school. So like football, for example, we're saying that we would have two 7th grade coaches. And then if we got to 41 athletes, we would add a 3rd coach. And if you got to 56, we'd add a 4th. High school, we have a minimum of 6. That's what we have right now. Then if we got up to 90 athletes, we'd add a 7th, and so on. So how that would look in the high school is, because you've got freshman, JV, varsity, you'd add another coach. Most likely they would be added to the JV or freshman staff, depending on where the numbers are
But it's
biggest.
you're counting
All together, yeah. Not 90 kids on the varsity or anything like that. And so that's the way it works all the way down. Like I said, the advantage of this is just so we have guidelines in place that coaches know and understand, and you're not dealing with individual requests. You may, on the other side of the coin, you might have head coaches that just are more comfortable working with fewer people, and they may never come to you with a concern about having too many kids. And supervision is coaching. We want good instruction and teamwork and all that stuff taught, but supervision is a big part of what coaches do too. And sometimes we ask coaches to supervise too many kids.
What happens if you can't find a coach? Because that's the problem that we have now.
Yeah.
like if we have a recommendation that's approved by the board for 90, to have 7 coaches, but you can't find that 7th coach, are we under any problems? Yeah, liability wise, without, if we have a chart that says that we have to have 7 coaches at 90, above 90. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think what we would look at, obviously we work as hard as we could on filling a coach, but we've run into that at the junior high level where we've not been able to find another coach, and then we've compensated in that situation. I don't think these are guidelines, so that we're not saying, and it's not set in policy. So we're not saying that this is hard and fast 90 automatically. Certain situations, may dictate that it doesn't, it's not really necessary, but now we have guidelines that our AD and our coaches are aware of, and they can use those.
I think it gives them the freedom to get a number.
Yeah.
I can go ask for this.
Yeah.
Maybe they're at 88, they can still kind of fit the guideline, but it's close to that tipping point.
Yeah.
How did you come up with these numbers?
Great question.
How did they come up with these numbers?
I asked Randy to communicate with our conference schools, which would be a comparable group. A lot of our conference schools are bigger than us. And then he worked from there. These aren't exactly like Bonder Ants would look different because they got more kids. But I know we contacted some others too that aren't in our conference, just to look at it. I think their original idea came from another non-conference school, I think even. So we looked at some other schools.
I was just curious.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good question.
I like that the guidelines are not mandated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the obviously that you might be expecting this. We think our numbers for volleyball at the high school level are such that we need to add another coach. And so what I wanted to do is make sure the board understands that we have some guidelines. I would ask you to approve them, just so you're aware of them, and that we have it in record that you're okay with these. But I understand they are guidelines and that it isn't a set in stone thing. But we'll be coming. We do think we need to post for a assistant volleyball coach, lower level.
I'll move to approve the guidelines for staffing coaching.
I'll second.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Wayne, Karen.
Yes.
Okay, so just trying to get these things in order as we start the school year. These are committees. The first part are committee board, pretty much board committees. You can see we have some like transportation. We got Jeff and Jen are on that. We can change these, but that's what we've got. School improvement, I think, was Karen and Cindy this past year. I don't know if we want to keep. Are you okay with keeping it that way?
That's fine.
Okay. IASB Legislative Network Liaison. That was Cindy.
I asked them what that is and they don't know. So I want that position.
The IASB delegate was Dwayne and Karen was the alternate. We don't know what the delegate assembly will look like this year or the convention at all at this point, but
Unless somebody else wants to be a delegate.
It's all yours.
let's see, county conference board. I'm not
TBD did a good job on that.
TBD. Who was it? Was it?
I know John always was there before, but I don't know.
What does it do?
So they
Meet with the
Yeah,
supervisors.
they meet when they're determining wages for county employees. There's a conference board.
You look official, I can do that. I can sit and look.
Cindy? So negotiations is, it says 2 members, but it's just been Dwayne and me and Gary.
Years past, it was the board president.
Okay, Karen.
You want me to add me to that group? Or for the 2 members?
Or
I
do
think
we
it's
wait until,
important Because,
yeah,
just so that someone has practice, so if it's
Yeah.
revolving, if the board changes,
Yeah.
that they, someone that has been involved in that.
We had 2 in the past on
probably my fault. I probably just wasn't inviting you. Karen?
Sure, I'll join that group.
Okay. Calendar fact finding was Annika, right? Are you okay with that again?
Unless somebody wants it. Sure.
I thought you did a great job and shutting off school on the 15th was
Yeah.
amazing.
Let's blame her.
If that was my decision, that would have happened before 9:30.
Yeah,
No offense.
yeah, I understand that. Objection to instructional material. I think we leave that one to be determined and we assign somebody if it comes up. Yeah. Parks and Rec, I had talked to them about, I said I would do that at least for this year. Randy, I think was before, but it never lined up for him to go to the meetings as far as other stuff.
And that I was before Randy,
Uh-huh.
and they always have meetings the exact same time we have board meetings.
Well, then that throws me out
So you
too.
might ask them when it is, because it's
Okay.
always the 3rd Monday at 6 o'clock. or
Okay.
something. So
If it doesn't work, we'll have to put somebody else in there, but
Is Crystal going to continue as a permanent action?
that's a different.
oh, I skipped that one. Sorry. Crystal,
Well,
yeah, she's on there as affirmative action and Gary's the alternate. And then if you go to administrative assignments, which is part of this item, these are things that we assign, responsibilities we assign to administrators. And so like the one of them that I want to point out, the main one is number 1. So Crystal has been our equity officer. And you see now it says and Title IX coordinator. There was a change in federal laws around Title IX. And so I'm working with our attorney to make sure that we have everything in place we're supposed to. One of the first things we needed to do is name a coordinator through board action. And so I think we can do like the committee and appointments, the 1 through 12 as a group, approve. Number 1, we need to make a specific motion related to that Title IX coordinator. So it needs to be done separately. But how that works, we have a coordinator and then we're going to review our policies and make sure they're up to date. There's some training that will be offered to the coordinator and actually 2 other people. One of them is me. So there's if there's an issue, it starts with the coordinator, then there's a next step, and then the 3rd steps would be me. And so we'll go through a training that our attorneys are helping set up for us. The rest of them are I think the only thing that I think number 5, the ADA, we did add Jeff DeVork to that too, because some issues are more facility issues. The deputy, that's new language here. Really what that just means is that who's in charge if that person's gone or like in the hospital or something like that. So it's not that we have a deputy or assistant, it's just kind of who's the person that's next in line. And so most of them are the same, except with Sue being gone, I replaced her with Patrick. And then with deputy superintendent, I just did the next most senior. In those situations, Gary's on there too. Unless I'm not able to talk on the phone, I'll get contacted on anything major. Other than that, Gary's probably better at making decisions than me anyway, so.
The number 4, the use of the students by employees.
Yeah.
I see, are the new counselors on there? Is there any concerns with her being new to the district? Does that affect anything for taking over Kathy's position there?
I think we're okay. We just need to make sure that she has there's a training for that. We'll have her make sure she goes through that. I think, and Hunter is on there now. Gary used to be there. So Hunter and her actually both need to go through that training. We've talked to them. They're willing to do it. I like the idea of having a male and a female. I think that's important. And so I think I think it'll be okay. And then level 2, we did check with Carroll PD and they're willing to serve as our level 2 again.
So you want two actions, right? The committee appointments and then another one with the administrative appointments.
Yeah, and with the administrative, we need to do one as its own, and then you could do 2 through 7 as a group.
I'll move to approve the committee appointments for 2020-21 school year. Second.
Cindy? Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Then I move to approve the Board of Directors of Carroll Community School District designates Crystal Bays as the district's Title IX coordinator and authorize that employee to coordinate with the district's efforts to comply with the district's responsibility under Title IX.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes. I'll move to approve the administrative assignments 2 through 7 as stated. Second.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And did everybody meet Patrick?
No.
Okay.
Policy, Brown?
Pat, no, let's just take a second here.
Cindy, I'm Patrick. It's a pleasure to meet you. Oh my gosh. It is such a small world. It is. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. And all of you. It is wonderful. I got to tell you, all the board members.
Thank you.
I have been welcomed by Carroll community. I unbelievably well. It's just both myself and my wife have just every time that I meet somebody, it's been really positive. So I said, I told Casey, I said I wouldn't really even want to apply for a job, but the more I looked at Carroll, the more I looked at Carroll, the more like, man, this could be all right. And now that I'm here, it is. It's all right. Crystal is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're gonna just keep piling more assignments.
Why don't you guys go ahead and leave so we can sign more stuff?
And Jeff, thank you.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Patrick, and then the person is Pat.
Yeah, well, you can say Pat or Patrick, either one. My wife is Terry. So we often introduce ourselves as Patrick and Terry, so that I have a long time friends that call me Terry a lot. So we start with the formal Patrick, but Pat is fine.
So good to meet you. Welcome.
Hope I do you well.
Thanks.
IASB legislative priorities.
Let's see. Oh, okay. And I did link it down below if you're online with the agenda in the addendum. It's actually that you can see if you click on the item online, if you're on there, that's their platform.
He has a recommendation of the agenda.
Yeah. I went through and made some recommendations. If you scroll down under action item 7.
How many are we supposed to have? 5, 3?
3 to 5, yeah.
For you, for the newer board members, these are suggestions that go to the legislature or the delegate assembly. And the delegate assembly down there votes on the top priorities that they take to the legislator to put focus on. I almost would suggest maybe that there's a lot to read through these. Maybe individual, I even got to think now in our August 5th meeting, we as board members read through these, pick 5 of them and send them to Casey, and then we can summarize them at that board meeting, and we can take action as a board and pick the 5 we want to go to IASB.
I think it's, if we did it at that August one, we'd be fine. You're supposed to do it and you haven't turned in by the 14th or something, August.
I was thinking like the August 5th meeting. Where we can take action on there after the plan is kind of discussed at the bottom of the agenda that day. That's just a suggestion, but you want to take time to go through tonight.
Well, I was looking at the ones I had written down, and you have the 3 that I had.
Do I?
On your recommendation. I actually had 5 written down, but yeah.
It's always,
Email.
they're all important. It's just, to me, it's always hard to decide which ones are the most.
Again, it's a recommendation that goes to the legislature, say, hey, these are what we as a ISD schools wants you to focus on.
That'd be fine. Yeah, if you want to take a closer look at them, and obviously, I think you always can have one on funding, and I don't have one of those, but I drop out. It deals with funding, but like there's 2 of them on state aid, and yeah. So.
Do we need to vote on that though? For you to turn it in, does it need to be board approved for that? Or?
Which we could do. We could just do them real quick on the 5th.
Okay, yeah.
If you. Yep, and then I'll put together what most, here are the 5 most common or whatever, and if you're okay with it, then you can do it quickly.
So when should we have those to you, Casey?
If the meeting's on the 5th.
Friday before, week before.
Yeah, if you had them to me even by the 3rd.
Monday, August 3rd.
Yeah, and if you forget and you get them to me on the 4th, it's not a huge deal. As long as I get them that day before, I can put it together.
Moving on, agenda item number 8, the appointment of the board secretary treasurer.
I swear. I think you need a motion first.
I'll move to approve Gary as our board secretary treasurer.
I'll second.
Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Okay, you can swear at me now.
Okay, I'm typing this down as you can hear. Gary, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Secretary Treasurer in the Carroll Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I do.
Next, we're moving on to resolution of issues of warrants.
This is something that we do every year, and you can
see the language is in the addendum. Some of this language comes right out of the Code of Iowa, and we've added a couple of items to it. For example, I think United Way contributions was added, as well as Carroll Recreation Center dues be added. But you can kind of read what this is for, so that we can make some of these payments when the board is not in session. But it's restricted to these specific items. And so, like I said, I think every school district in the state approves language similar to this, but we do have to do it every year, so.
Now, does this have to be like an emotion?
Yeah, you can just have this in a motion to approve the, well, it might not hurt if you read that. Read the italicized, whoever makes the motion.
2021, Board of Directors of your community school district hereby authorize the secretary to issue warrants when the board is not in session for the payment of utilities, wage, express posting, salary, state, federal taxes, FICA items, CPA dues, CSA dues, employee annuities, net contributions, health insurance dues, Carroll Rec Center dues,
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Wayne? Karen?
Yes.
Yes, this is another kind of house cleaning thing that we do have to do every year. There's in your packet there's an orange piece of paper where we name our depositories. These are the same ones that I had listed last year. I also didn't change the amount. What you're doing here is saying that if we are to deposit funds in institutions, it will be these that are listed on this sheet of paper, and then you can see the maximum balance. Availabank is where we have all of our checking accounts. Our local investments tend to be at United Bank of Iowa and Iowa Savings Bank, simply because they provide the best term, the best interest rates. And so that's why we put money there. And then also you can see one that's not required, but the Iowa Schools Joint Investment Trust, that's sponsored by the School Board Association. We do put some money in there as well. But there are some banks on there that typically don't deposit, but I'm not going to say that we never do, because, for example, when we sell bonds for new construction, a lot of times these banks will bid on investing some of those bonds. So we've tried to list all of the banks that are in our school district, so they would have the opportunity to do that. On this one, I think you can just reference the resolution naming depositories.
I'll go through the resolution and depositories list.
I'll second.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Tire bids. Jen, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Jeff had a total of 14 tires that needed to be replaced, and we opened bids a couple weeks ago, I think it was. Performance Tire had the lowest bid at $2,070 for those 14 tires. And just so you know, if you've never been out to the bus barn, what Jeff does is he has us come out, looks at tires. I've learned a lot about tires. And he's a great teacher, and just kind of goes over his rotation and how he documents and keeps up with it. It's a hard working guy, that's for sure. So
he recommends that we
do the performance for the $2,070 for the 14 total tires. There were 6 front and 8 rear.
I make a motion that we purchase tires for Performance Tire, cost of $2,070.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Next agenda item is the preschool agreement with Carroll.
Yeah, the very back page. This, yeah, the only updates on this are on the back page, just at the top there, we updated those numbers and the names on it. Other than that, it is, the agreement would be the same as it was this past year.
You're saying Pat Rabbit, that's the thing.
Yeah, and then, of course, the October 19 count, we put that number, we know what that was, because your funding's always a year behind. This was the first year that we sent, in the past, it's my understanding, and that any preschool expenses Kemper would send to us, and then we would pay them. This past year, then, this agreement was changed a little bit, and it was always limited to 80 kids before that they would have. So we took that limit off, and then we sent each month. You saw in the bill, you would have seen in the bills, we sent an amount to Kemper each month, and then they paid the expenses from that money related to preschool. We'll have an audit coming up here this fall, and so Kemper will have to participate in that in the area of preschool. It's the things that we work with Kemper on in terms of the funding that flows through us to them is, so we're talking preschool, we're talking special education, Title I, some of those federal programs. Really, the services are made available to Kemper, and the money kind of follows it. And so we're still working through some of the new things that came with doing it this year, like how we handle money that wasn't spent and stuff like that. So we're working with Gary and myself and John and their business person. So, but anyway, other than that, the agreement is what it was this past year. But just so you know that it's kind of a it's a process throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, making all of it work.
I'll move to approve the preschool agreement with Kemper for the 2021 school year.
Second.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy? Jennifer?
Yes.
Capital outlay.
Yeah, I shouldn't be this excited to bring this to you, but I am. It's something that I said for 10 years that we were going to do, and we're finally to this point. When this building was built, what's that, 20 some years ago or 30 years ago, there was a spot near the athletic area there for a washer and dryer. And sadly, that got taken over by other stuff, and we never got one installed. So I started working on this, like I said, several years ago. I contacted Denise Lux here at the high school and approached her about the possibility of having some of her kids assist with running the machines, folding the laundry, that type of thing. And as far as what we're talking about here, things have changed. You don't have towels for kids' flats anymore. But we do have custodial rags, mops, kitchen aprons, rags, those types of things. And in addition to the expense of sending it out, you know, we might buy new kitchen rags, but when we send them out, we don't necessarily get our rags back, if that makes sense. So, yeah. So with this, what we're talking about doing is putting in a 30-pound commercial washer and then a 50-pound commercial dryer. Both of them are under 5,000. We didn't take official bids, but we did visit with some folks. And I'm not going to bring up his name because he didn't say I could, but he has a lot of experience with these machines locally. He said Kemper uses these machines, St. Anthony's Hospital, the laundromat, west part of town, hotel there uses them. And he said they've had the best luck with these machines by far. He highly recommended them. The other thing that Jeff really liked, he met with the salesman. These are very easy to operate, very simple machines to run. And so that piqued our interest as well. It's an Iowa company from Eastern Iowa. So the total bid for both pieces of equipment is $94.35, and that would include the installation. Now, we do need to beef up the electrical service to run the dryer, and so we're working on that.
What about, is there water?
Yes, there's water, drain is there, the vent for the dryer is there, so their installation shouldn't be too involved. So,
In the bills list this month, we spent $970 some on heating supplies that could have been run through this in 1 month.
You mean for like outsourcing them?
Yes.
Would we use machines for all schools?
Yes.
So-
yeah,
Okay.
everything would come here, and
And your logic said, bring them out.
I sometimes bring my garbage to the trash dump. Sometimes somebody across the street brings a whole bunch of stuff to garage.
Well, 30 pounds, that, I mean, I was thinking how much clothes I could get in there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this during football season, like to see some of the football fans and stuff going in these.
Just once it started, kids after, you know.
Because I think all honestly, some of these kids, when they get caught in a situation where they can't, it's hard to get something laundry, because up over the hall, I can see some of those older wrestlers.
So like the uniforms, when like the kids are done with their uniforms, the spring season's over, they turn them in and then we've been sending them out
Yes,
to
get
get
clean.
clean. This is what would take the effect of this.
yeah, it would completely eliminate our use of outside vendors. We do have some things that get dry cleaned and that type of thing. So there would be some bills still there, but a lot of the things we could do ourselves. And Denise was very excited about this opportunity because it gives her kids some responsibility and so forth.
Life
And so
skills.
she's
Mhm.
really excited about it.
I'll move to approve the recommendation on the washer and dryer for a total of $9,435.
Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne.
Yes.
We'll probably pay that out of Pebble, either Pebble or Silo.
One thing I forgot, Casey, is the supply list probably will be coming out soon, right? Did we do anything about eliminating hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes off those lists? Because there's no way parents are gonna be able to find those.
Yeah.
Or the cost of those
Yeah.
are gonna be outrageous.
Sanitizer, that's so expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
Clorox wipes, you
Can't
find them. Or they have limit one.
There's
Now,
limit when
bleach
you
in a
do when you
rag.
do.
Yeah. And we had also talked about Gary.
the paper. I think I've got that off, but I need to
Okay.
double check. The
Paper
reams of
was-
paper. Yeah.
And you would think that they would have a lot of the sanitizer and wipes still built up since we left early in March from last
We
year.
do.
At
Well, at school.
Unless eBay was.
At school, we do,
Yeah.
especially middle school down. High school, the kids don't bring it, but
Right.
I know Jeff's mentioned we got quite a bit of quite a few wipes and hand sanitizer.
I know in high school, I had to bring, I think it was wipes
Yeah,
with them.
I'll double check the list.
That might have just been the freshman year, too.
Budget updates here.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, they are in your packet. Now, this would be for the past fiscal year. And we still have 1 month to go before we'll close out the past fiscal year. But you can see on that first sheet that those yellow boxes, that compares what we've spent to our certified budget. We should be fine on that. I don't think there's any question there. The next page compares it to the line item budget. The one that is a little skewed this year, but it's fine, is the activity fund. And you can see their revenues were well over what I anticipated. And their expenses are a little high too, but we're still in the positive area there, so that's great.
Does that include Tiger Vision, then their selling of items and stuff is on it?
Yep.
Good.
So pretty excited about that one. General fund, we're a little bit upside down there, but there's still some revenues that will come trickling in this next month, and we won't have many more expenses on any of these funds. So yeah, overall it looks good, and then next month you'll get a final one. So by the regular board meeting, that should be pretty well it.
I have one question, Gary.
Sure.
How do you think that we actually turn around the activity fund?
That's a good question. I need to look at that a little closer. I would say one of the things that helped a little bit on the expense side is that you didn't have activities for a while. So that helped. But the revenues were up significantly. So I'm not really sure on that. It could be the Tiger Vision situation, the Tiger store.
Because we were in the red last month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
One thing you mentioned,
there was 10,000 that
Okay.
you put back into activity fund for
Yeah.
football elements. So
Yeah.
that would have helped. Yeah.
and some of our spring sports are they're higher cost, low revenue too. If you think of soccer,
So,
yeah, track, I'm not sure, but
swimming is not, I
Yeah.
don't, boys or girls, are they in the spring? No.
we got through those seasons.
And typically baseball, softball is not a big revenue
Yeah.
producer either. Time you have all the officials and the bus rides.
Yeah.
And all that. Yes.
We had fewer.
Not soccer.
Thank you very much.
Yep. No, none of those changed much. The only thing you'll notice on Silo, we did purchase computers, Chromebooks right before the end of the year, so those show up. And also we had one more payment for taxes that show up in there, but again, didn't make a whole lot of difference. Those are probably pretty close to fine, all three of those funds. I'll have those for you next month, but what you see there now is probably where we're going to end up.
Agenda item. Item number 8. New teachers reports on August 12th, 13th, 14th, Does that know which building they're in?
No, everybody, let's see. For we do something, most of that time is spent in their individual buildings with new teachers.
And on the 17th, all teachers report.
So remember the 17th and 18th are the 2 additional days that that you approved, and then the 19th is the day that all people come. 17th and 18th, I think we'll have a good turnout, but it isn't necessarily required.
Your dates are all off on this.
Well, I think I'm not sure why the August
23rd
board
is a
meeting,
Sunday.
what's that?
August 23rd is a Sunday. August
Yeah, so she didn't get that corrected. 25th is yes. Yeah, she had it printed before she caught the mistake on the packet. Yeah, yeah.
But the 25th is still the first day of school.
Yes.
Will it be a regular full day or is it going to be an early hour?
Full day.
I'm gonna be gone the next board meeting that Monday.
17th.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as you're here for the 5th, that'll be the big one.
Yes, definitely. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
I love the optimism of whoever puts the time stamp.
Yeah.